Hi everyone, my name is Alexis Renghini and I am the MSW intern here in the field office, and today I have a presentation that I prepared about professional interviewing in the field of social work. So we'll talk about resumes, preparing for interviews, and any tips and tricks that can help you when you're interviewing for jobs or internships. So preparation for the interview. Showing your knowledge and skill range is important during your interview, but your pre-preparation can be the key factor in edging out other job candidates. This looks like researching the agency, looking up the local demographics, looking into the population that the agency serves, any relevant legislation that can impact the client demographic, and also looking up any words or terms that you don't know that are in their job description. You want to make sure that you have a good understanding and you feel comfortable using them in their interview if it is prompted in the questions. So your preparation for your interview will also include how you show up the day of your interview. So you want to make sure you dress professionally, ensure you have all required documentation and paperwork that's requested. And you're also going to want to rehearse. You're going to want to look up maybe some common interviewing questions, go over your resume or your CV so that you're prepared, you know what you want to say, and that you're ready to reflect on your previous professional experiences. And the link on this slide will take you to the NASW Common Interview Questions for Social Work. So answering questions. When you're answering questions in your interview, be sure to take your time and don't rush your answers. It's okay to take a moment and pause while you gather your thoughts before you want to talk about an experience that relates to the question that they're asking you. And it's okay to be nervous. Be confident in your answers and be sure to add in your previous professional experiences. Some do's and don'ts of interviewing. Do not talk about your personal life. They don't want to hear about your dating life, your zodiac sign, friends and family, anything along those lines. And if you are asked about your professional life, redirect all your answers back to your social work experiences. So an example question that what can look like an interview. Tell us about your professional life and how it affects your job performance, or is there any other circumstances that will affect your ability to be at work? If you're asked a question like this, here's an example of how to redirect back to your social work experiences. You can say something along the lines of, I require myself to set strict boundaries between my professional and personal life. In my previous professional experiences, I have dedicated myself to showing a strong work ethic and strong time management skills to ensure all responsibilities and duties are completed. And just one more slide about answering questions. Just make sure that when you're in your interview, especially if you're in your BSW and maybe you don't really have any professional experiences at this point, or even once you graduate or you're in that higher level of education and you're interviewing for field internships or jobs, just make sure you discuss those internships, any relevant educational courses, certifications, any clubs, and volunteer experiences. Interviews may ask you about your personal life to make sure you practice self-care when you're not in the office. So in the previous slide, like it said, don't give too many details about what your personal life looks like or any intimate details. But if an interviewer asks you a question that's relating more to self-care, they just want to make sure that you do have those boundaries and you do have things outside of the agency and things that will prevent burnout. An example to an answer about self-care can look like this. Between my work and personal life, it's very important to me to establish boundaries. I have many hobbies which I enjoy in my time away from the agency. So if they keep kind of pointing to some personal life questions, they might be looking more to make sure that you do prioritize self-care and to prevent burnout and turnover in the agency. So this next slide has information on behavioral interview questions. So behavioral interview questions look to get feedback about a skill or experience that is related to the new position. This type of question will look for one experience that backs up your resume and to get a look into how you would handle situations in this new job at this new agency. So common behavioral questions will kind of center around teamwork, communication, client management, adaptability, time management, motive, motives and values, and hypothetical situations. And a few tips on how to answer behavioral questions. You want to quickly identify the skill that the interviewer is trying to learn more about. You want to pick a relevant professional experience that aligns with what the interview is looking for. You want to discuss your experience and emphasize in the details that will speak to the skill to which the interviewer is looking for. Wrap up your answers with how you generally approach situations that the interviewer presented. And the link on this slide will take you to another website that just has a bigger list of some common behavioral interview questions. The next type of questions you'll most likely see are the open-ended interview questions. So these questions are more broad and you can elaborate on multiple experiences. These questions will look for more background on your social work experiences as a whole instead of one isolated example that will reflect to a skill, like in behavioral questions. These type of questions will require you to elaborate, and you can find yourself being asked to describe yourself, why are you right for this job, or why are you leaving your current job? Don't let open-ended questions trick you while answering. When you're asked to describe yourself, talk about how you're a good team player who's able to collaborate with the team. You can discuss your social work training and how that has helped you being in the field. Always have your answers relate back to your experience, your resume, and your social work knowledge. Do not elaborate about your personal life, even at first the question seems to be aimed that way. Just like in the previous slides, always redirect back to your social work experiences. So some examples would be, why did you apply for this job? What are your biggest strengths? What are your biggest weaknesses? What is your biggest professional challenge and how did you overcome it? And where do you see yourself in your professional career in 5 years? So these questions are more open-ended. You can elaborate, you can discuss multiple things instead of picking one isolated experiences like it was mentioned in the behavioral questions. This slide comes from West Virginia's Career Services. So they have the STAR technique which is situation or task, action you took, and the results you achieved. This will have some general questions and then just a longer list of the behavior-based questions. So now we've hit the point where we get to resumes. So resumes are super important. It's the thing that's going to get you to the job interview. So when you're creating your resume, it's important to keep in mind the research you do for each job listing. There can be either targeted and or tailored wording in your resume. So use your research to include modalities, techniques, and job requirements to pick those targeted words that will pop to the application reviewers. So if one agency uses patients as a way to describe who they work with, their clients, on your resume for each job listing you apply to, you can kind of switch out and change those words so that it's more fitting for that job and it will pop to the reviewers who are looking at your resume. For anyone who doesn't have professional social work experience yet, or you haven't completed your internship, you're still in your BSW, putting your volunteering can replace that, and also the internships. Instead of having if you worked in restaurants, that's not something that would be included in your resume, but instead you replace that work experience with the internships and your volunteering experience. For everything that's included on your resume, for your master resume, it should include your social work education, your professional job experiences, internships, relevant educational courses, volunteer experiences, your references, skills, and professional development. So this next slide, we have the social work master resume. This example comes from the Career Services at West Virginia University. So this hypothetical person has their name and their title. So if they're licensed, that'll be included. You have your email, your phone number, where you're located, and your social work license. And as on the previous slide, it has your education, your professional experience, your volunteer experience, your professional development, and your skills. And after your skills, you can also include those references. And as you can see in the professional experiences where it's highlighting the jobs that you have had, when you do describe them, you have them in bullets. They're concise. It's not too much information, but it gets right to the point of what you did in the time frame that you did it in. And then this next slide, we have a BSW level resume example. This also comes from Career Services. So this is for our BSW students who either just graduated or are in the process of getting that degree. So it's going to look very similar, just a few differences compared to that master resume you just looked at. So if at this point you don't have your license yet, nothing's going to be included for that. You're going to have your education, your volunteer experience, and then that professional experience and development if you do have it. And then also showing those certifications like HIPAA, anything else you've done, any courses that you've taken in your social work education that could be relevant.